Hello, this is Lisa LeRose, and I'm joined by Michael J. Russ, one of my favorite people on the planet, here on Connect to Love on PRNFM on the Vibrant Living Network. And today, as often is the case, I sort of muse around in my head, and I was thinking about dates and times and where we are in the year, and I was thinking, wow, we're getting close to half the year, and then I of course, my mind sort of wandered, and I thought about Christmas and how, during Christmas, everybody has the spirit of giving. And then my mind wandered again, and I thought, well, really, every day and every way should include the spirit of giving. And Michael J. Russ exemplifies that. He gives so much to so many people, and I'd like to welcome you, Michael. How are you today on this beautiful day?
I'm awesome. I'm doing really, really well. It's a great day here on the Gulf Coast. Beautiful outside, and the sun is shining, and I'm a sun worshiper. I actually might be taking some pictures of clouds for my journals because I'm looking at a couple here now that deserve to be photographed. I use them for the covers. Yeah, fantastic. That's it's excellent.
Great.
We got a great topic today, though. Tell our audience about it because I'm excited.
Well, one of the things and yesterday was your girlfriend's birthday, and today is a very special friend. I have a lot of people that are born in the month of May, and during one of the books that I was listening to, they mentioned that in Thailand on your birthday, you actually don't get gifts, you actually give gifts. And I thought, what a really amazing and unique concept to actually reach out to somebody and say, you know what, it's my opportunity to celebrate you, and I'd like you to have this. And I thought, what an interesting tradition. I mean, we almost have a point in time where we can do that. But one of the things about giving, which I think is so fascinating, is that there actually is a physiological response. Some people, when they run, they get what they call an endorphin rush that gives you, sort of a high. But Herbert Benson, who was a Harvard cardiologist, actually did research on this, and he said that when we perform a good deed for others, we actually have that same type of endorphin release. He called it a helper's high. So he said it's actually nature's built-in reward system for helping others. So when you do something that's altruistic without giving, without expecting something back, he called it sort of a miracle drug, which I think is fascinating. Absolutely fascinating that, the idea of altruism can behave like a miracle drug. I mean, it's just, that euphoria. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And, what I know that, you give so much to so many, and maybe that's part of the reason that you're such a happy person anyway. So I'd love to hear what your thoughts are about that.
Absolutely. Giving. I listed it as one of the dozen and a half elements of alchemy that I've identified that help transform the way you feel. Giving feelings associated with giving transmute lower frequency feelings, and the whole idea behind managing your frequency, in my view, is to become, as we talked about last week, become situationally aware of your frequency. And when you're vibrating in lower frequencies, you do things, take actions, change your thought process to transmute those lower feelings and elevate your frequency to a higher level. And giving is one of those things that I absolutely love. Just last weekend, we were down at, I think it was Sunday, we were down at the water at this little restaurant right on the water called Hooked, and met a couple. We were almost done. We were sitting out there for like 3 hours. I mean, just looking at the water and the waves. The wind was blowing at about 10, 15 miles an hour, but it was a beautiful day. Lower humidity, which is really awesome for here. And another couple, we were there long enough to see several people come and go beside us. And a group had left next to us, and another couple came by. And I had the opportunity to just connect with him for a moment. And I said, "Hey, are you in the military?" He says, "Yeah. How did you know?" And I said, "I get a sense of it. The language you use to speak to me, to say hello. Military people usually always say, sir, even when they're not talking to somebody that's a higher rank than them." And
right.
Interestingly enough, though, a lot of young men down here say sir too, just in respect to somebody older than they are. However, I said, I picked up on your language. And my dad was military, was Air Force. My girlfriend's here was Army, so we're ex-brats. And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "You're Tyndall?" He says, "Yeah." I said, "Fine." And the next thing I did, as soon as I think they'd just gotten a cocktail after they'd eaten. And we had the same waiter, and I called the waiter over. I said, "Hey," I said, "there are tabs on me." And he goes, "Okay, great." And, because out of respect for somebody who dedicates their time and energy to serving the country, like my dad did, I love speaking to people who are of the mind that this particular young man was making a commitment to something greater than himself, and they were such a lovely couple. They're young, probably in their 20s, late 20s, early 20s, mid 20s. I don't know. I didn't ask the age; it really wasn't important. However, I do that a lot. I'll either pick up another round for somebody sometime, and it's fun. And this particular time, I actually walked by them when I went to the restroom, and I said, "Listen, I appreciate your service." And I said, your lunch is on me. And they said, "Oh, thank you very much." It was great, and nothing else had to be said. And I went back, sat down with Sandy. We hung out for another 45, 50 minutes, just chilling, watching the water. And we said, when we got up and left, we said, "Hey, thanks a lot. Have a great time." And he says, "Thank you very much." And I'm gone. And many times I'll just not tell the waiters to look, make it anonymous. This time I did it because he was in the Air Force, and I had such a deep connection to that. However, the high that the doctor was talking about is amazing. It is phenomenal. It is especially, what's amazing is when you give, you have this great feeling inside. However, when someone gives to you anonymously, the feeling is, I'd say, fivefold. It's really amazing. I was at the point of almost tears when somebody did it for me one time, because it'd been years, and I do mean decades, since anybody did something like that. And they did it anonymously and wrote a nice little note on the check, and I, for the life of me, couldn't, and still to this day, do not know. I was out of town, so I'm wondering, who in the world did I impact in a place, in a hotel that I don't even, and who knows me this well, to say, "Hey, you're an amazing person, and I just wanted to do this for you." And I'm like, who in the world? I don't know anybody around here. Yeah, it's just really strange. So I still to this day don't know who did it. However, I was on cloud nine feeling wise for the rest of the day. It lasted the entire day, and nothing could knock me off that pedestal, because I was always like, whose life did I impact to the point where they would do this and leave this kind of note for me? And even today, I get I get teary-eyed thinking about it, and it's so wonderful. So if I feel that way, I'm wondering, is this how somebody feels when I do it for them and I don't tell them? And I don't know, it's just it's just out there, but I hope so. I hope so, because that it's. I was telling somebody the other day who was in the service industry, and I said, I have a motto: leave someone better than when you found them. That's basically it, and that's what I like to go through life thinking. If I engage with somebody in any way, shape, or form, I want to leave them feeling better about life, better about themselves, better in some way than before I met them, before I crossed their path. And if we all did that, it would be really amazing. We'd have an amazing world that we're living in, and we'd notice it, I think, immediately. Leave someone better, and it's kind of a way of being of service. Because somebody else that I was listening to one day was talking about you should make sure that you're serving others 50% of your time.
Wow.
That's a tall order. That's a tall order for a lot of people. It's and being of service. Yeah. Being of service doesn't just mean, it's not like you're just, you're doing on somebody else's lawn or you're washing their car. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about being of service. That is elevating them to a higher level than they were before. Just leaving someone better than when you found them is actually being of service to them, giving them a smile, helping them feel better about themselves and their life. You don't know what anybody's going through, what they're experiencing, what's happening in their personal life. You're just interacting with them in a business or a service perspective, or it could be a neighbor down the street, whatever. You don't know. And when you have a sense of service, of being of service to others, and that's obviously a big form of giving, you have a higher level, you develop a higher level of intuition when it comes to connecting with people relationally. You can check their body language out. You can see the way they're walking. You can see the look on their face. Is it a frown? Is it a scowl? Is it a smile? Is it just a blank face? Is it, you can sense and you can see before that someone needs help before other people. And groceries, you're walking out to your car, someone's got a cart and they've got a boatload of groceries they're carrying or whatever. Can I help you in any way? And they'll either say yes or they'll say no, but I offered, and it's nice for them to know that somebody is offering. Even if they say no, it's not a big deal. That's always a personal choice. I don't get all wrapped up in it, but giving is a huge way to transform the way that you feel and to get your frequency elevated in a hurry, in a heartbeat. And that's what I use it for.
Yeah. Mother Teresa used to say that, it's not about how much we do, but how much love we put into the doing. And it's not how much we give, it's how much love we put into the giving. And I think about that in life, and it's so poignant to me because what you're speaking about, Michael, is that warm glow, that inner pleasure, that feeling happier that you get when you give. And it, again, and I'm glad you brought up the point, it's not always monetary. It can be just assisting somebody with their groceries. It can be, helping somebody who's struggling, to get something out of their wallet. My grandmother was basically legally blind. She had macular degeneration. So, when she had a taxi cab driver that would come and pick her up, and when it came time to pay him, she would hand him her wallet and say, okay, take what you need out of there. But, and some people would say, well, that's not really a good idea. But, she had such an open heart, and she would have given him all the money in her wallet anyway, because for him to come each week to take her out, it was very important for her to maintain her independence. Something as simple as that. It was somebody that, she didn't have to worry about who am I going to get this week. It sort of created a bond between them. And, when you do give, whether you as humans, we release those endorphins. There's chemicals in the brain that release serotonin, which is a mood-mediating chemical, dopamine, which is a feel-good chemical, and oxytocin, which is a compassion and bonding, but they all keep you younger. All of those hormones have the ability to lower your blood pressure, to give you an elevated high, so you're less depressed, less anxiety in your life. It lowers stress levels. But you're just being what we all came here to do, which is to serve others and be connected and really share that love. And I think that's really what makes a difference, is that love. And that's what you're speaking about, in that vibration of giving. There is that power of love. You're doing it from your heart. You're doing it with no expectation of what I'm going to get back. And, and I think that when you do that, things do come back to you in unexpected ways. Very much so. The other day I was cleaning and I opened up a book. I thought, I'll go through these books. I don't really need these anymore. I'm going to go ahead and give them, give some away. And here I found a $20 bill tucked in one of the pages of the book. Now, that would have been if I would have donated it. I just left it in the book, because I thought, well, here's an unexpected gift. I obviously didn't need that $20. It's been tucked away, and let it be a nice surprise to whoever finds that book.
I love it.
But it made me feel happy because I feel like I don't know where it's going to go in the world. I don't know what that book or that $20 is going to do. It's just going to go on its own adventure. And I have no expectations of ever finding out about who got it, but you never know. The world, things happen in unexpected ways.
True. That is so true. And it is. It's all about the feeling. I mean, we don't. We could talk with blue in the face about giving. However, I think what I'd love to do is challenge each and every listener that we have on both the radio show and the podcast that to go out and perform an altruistic duty. Altruistic. What is it I'm looking for? The word I'm looking for. Perform an act of altruism. There we go. Perform an act of altruism and look for it and approach that with intention. You don't have to do it every day, but if you create that intention to be altruistic, then the opportunities, that vibration that you're resonating of altruism, the intention to do so, already puts you there. You're already one with the result when you set the intention, according to Gary Zukav, and you're going to be resonating that frequency, and the opportunities to perform the altruistic acts will manifest for you. And all you have to do is just be alert to them, and that's the same way you have to approach literally your life when it comes to understanding owning your sovereignty and practicing alchemy. You have to be able to be intimately aware of how you're feeling, and using giving as a tool of alchemy is one aspect of it. And you have to set the intention and then weave it into your existence. If you haven't been doing it before, you weave it into your modus operandi, so to speak, your life. And the other ancillary benefits of the dopamine, etc., the hormones that you're producing, in my view, is an awesome byproduct, and it should be an awesome byproduct. It should be the byproduct of what it is that you're doing. Staying younger doesn't just involve eating the right things or taking the right actions. It's actually, a lot of it has to do with thought, with your thinking. With your thinking. You change your mind, you change yourself, you change your life, you change surroundings, you manifest different things. It's a wondrous world. Changing your mind is a wondrous thing because it opens up pathways, opportunities to be different, to feel different, to experience different things in your life and have different opportunities, different connections with people. It's mind-blowing. To me, I love getting up in the morning and thinking about the possibilities. And it begins with having the mental intention and awareness to create, to be that way. And I know you are too. You have to. It's a state of being, and which is what you're doing when you're transmuting those feelings. Is you're changing your state of being, and giving changes your state of being. You could be depressed. You could be upset about something that's occurred in your life, and then you yet still on a separate level in your mind, you're maintaining an awareness, a level of awareness of what's around you and the altruistic opportunities that exist. And instead of being caught in your own grief or your own bubble of negativity, feeling bad, feeling sad, feeling depressed, feeling upset about something or angry about something, you still can have this level of awareness as to instead of being blinded by those things, which is, as somebody once said, I don't know what it is, you're blinded by emotions. You can become blinded by your emotions. A good friend of mine who wrote a great book, who he's just an average guy in insurance. He has an insurance business, and you'd look at him and you'd never know in a million years that this guy could communicate with people who passed over. You'd never know it. And it was a gift that he denied for many, many, many years. And what was interesting about it is the fact that he would be talk about giving to others. He would be sitting in a chair watching something, or he'd be asleep at night. He'd be asleep at night, and he'd be awakened suddenly, and there would be a spirit telling him to call this number. Call this number. Call this number. He'd go, what?
Oh boy!
He said, call this number. You got to call this number. You got to talk to my son or my daughter or my wife, whatever. You got to tell her. He says, okay, hold on a second. And he got to the point where he would write down the number, and he would call the number, and he would say, you don't know who I am, and I don't know what your belief system is or whatever. However, did you just have someone, and he'd name who it was, pass on? And they'd say yes. And it'd say he developed a way of kind of breaking it to them gently. However, the short story is that he recognized that he had this gift, and he said the one thing he learned from all the experiences is that the level of negative emotions that you have, the level of sadness or anger, or the level of lower frequency vibrations that you're resonating when you've lost someone, actually create a barrier that prevents the person who's passed on from connecting with you. And he said that's the thing. He wrote a book, and that's the one message of the book, with a lot of different experiences and things in it. But he says if people would simply understand that when they're grief-stricken so deeply, that creates a barrier that the spirit cannot get through to connect with them, their loved one. And so they would come to him because he had no barriers. They knew he could communicate with them in a way. So he was open to their communicating with him. And so It was beautiful. I thought that was fantastic. What an interesting and beautiful
gift to give somebody, to be able to give somebody that closure, the message, whatever it is. Do you recall the name of his book? Could you share it with us?
You know what? It's funny. I will have it here in just a little bit. I actually have it here.
Okay,
I've got a bookshelf, and I actually have to. I'm looking for it on my bookshelf as I'm talking to you here, and
that's
I've got
the wonderful
two
of
levels.
Live radio, because there's nothing that's planned or edited out or anything.
It's true. Nothing's planned out.
I would like to just comment about that though, Michael, because you, without knowing, you give me a gift almost every time we talk, because you tell me to have an awesome day. And when you do that, I mean, you may not realize it, but just that simple gift, I get a big smile on my face, and I think of all the different possibilities that can unfold with that awesomeness. There's a certain energy in the way that you say it, and I can almost see you smiling. And even if you text it to me, I feel it. I feel that as a part of you that's an essence, and and you may not look at it like that, but just those words really can transform my day. And I have a book at my that I have that is the Book of Awesomeness, and it's written by a young Canadian man who encourages everybody to do something awesome every day. And he has a website of 1,000 awesome somethings, and I had to laugh because one of the ones most recently on his blog post was that when a baby's diaper isn't as bad as you were expecting, a gift. And I thought, oh my gosh, isn't that funny? But you think about that as sort of as a metaphor in life, right? Because, you've got an appointment at the bank or somewhere and you walk in and you're expecting to maybe you're applying for a loan, and it's a very intimidating thing. But the person that you're meeting with, they welcome you with a smile and they make it something. We have these preconceived notions, but welcoming somebody in, sit down with me, we're going to make this an easy process for you. You think about all the things that metaphorically, seem on the surface to stink or something that we're apprehensive about. It just takes one kind word, a smile, a warm look in somebody's eyes to totally shift what's going on. Absolutely.
So true.
And we talked on past episodes about a wow word, but I don't know if awesomeness is a wow word, but it really seems to transcend some energy that I might be experiencing throughout the day. And you can pick your own word. I usually tell people to enjoy a wonderful day rather than have it. I always thought the word like have a nice day, like I'd like sort of like serve it up, here it is, rather than enjoy was more of an inviting exploration. You never know what will unfold. So
you're true. That's so true.
Yeah.
I got to tell you though, I end up telling people nowadays it's really interesting. It was probably a couple of years ago that I, in speaking to people, coming across people, I would say, have a good day. And they go, oh, great. And then I started thinking about going, have? I'm wishing you to have a good day. What I really want to do is let you know that whether you have a good day or not is up to you. Saying have a good day really leaves having a good day up to chance. And having a good day is not up to chance. If you're into creating your own reality, and I am, and I encourage people to create their own reality. If you're into creating your own reality, then you know that how you interpret what happens to you throughout the day, the experiences you have, the people you meet, whatever, how you interpret what occurs, what you encounter throughout the day is completely and totally 100% up to you. And that's how you create your reality. So instead of saying, have a great day, I started saying, make today awesome. Make the day amazing. Make today magnificent. And I now when it's like no more do I say in any message, text or otherwise, any communication, have a great day. I always say, make it an awesome day, or make today awesome, make today amazing, because it is up to you. I even in my own podcast like that too. Make today magnificent. Make it every day magnificent, because it's you who does that. There's no one else in charge of your day, of making it one way or another. That's allowing outside circumstances to dictate how you feel about yourself. Yet we always say, hey, have a great day. Bye-bye, enjoy yourself. I was like, make today awesome. Make today what you want it to be. It's your day. You can decide to do like I did yesterday. The one part of my business was not that great. And I said, you know what? This is an awesome day. It's Sandy's birthday. I'm going to design this day to have fun and to make her day fun. And I asked her in the morning, you want to go to the beach? She goes, oh, that'd be great. We get done cleaning the barn. That doesn't change. But we had a good time doing it. There's music playing. You can have a good time. You can do a little dance in the stall while you're cleaning, whatever. You can make it fun. You can make it anything you want it to be. That's the beautiful thing about it. And she asked me, she says, well, why do you come out here? I said, because I've come to actually in the last year enjoy doing this. I really didn't enjoy it before. My perception of it was that it was just drudgery. And literally in the last year, she can't believe the transformation has occurred with me. I get up every morning with her. We leave the house at 6:35, and we go out there, and I call it, let's go have our awesome 20 minutes. Because that's all it takes.
Sweet.
To feed, clean the stalls, blow the aisle, and drop the hay and get the hay ready and the feed ready for the next feeding, and then just leave after that. And this weekend we'll go out and we'll do probably like 2.5 hours worth of work on Sunday. Because things have to be done. You've got to clean things up. You've got to weed eat. You've got to, I mean, it's literally 7 acres. So there's a lot of things that have to go on. I love being out there. I'll put my earbuds in and listen to some really cool music while I'm doing it, or I'll just listen to the birds chirp. You can make fun of anything and everything. You can make everything fun. All you have to do is just set the intention to make it fun. Perceive it in a positive way. Find something good about it. And there's always something good about everything. Something positive. You can make something positive out of everything. Even the most tragic of circumstances can be interpreted as, I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to spend time with that person's soul. I got that opportunity, and that's something that we in the process of the how and why it happened, the grieving. I'll never see them again. My life will never be the same again. That sort of thing. You can sidestep that and get straight to gratitude. Mm-hmm. You can't change what has occurred, but you can get straight to gratitude. And you can also, and I like to impart, part of my giving and be of service is to listen to people and impart that message to them. Impart that, hey, I know you're sad. I know that you're grieving for this loss. I'm simply going to tell you this. At some point, you're going to get to gratitude for having known them, for having had them in your life. When you can get to that point, and you can no longer be sad, but you can focus on the gratitude and put a smile on your face, you know you're getting through it, or you know you've gotten through it. And you can do that with everything and anything. Mm-hmm. It's a magical world out there, and it's all for you. It's all up to your interpretation. Magical.
I completely agree. The universe, I believe, gives you back tenfold what you put out into the field. And, you never know how it unfolds in unexpected, magical ways. And, when you were speaking about, making things different, I go to one of the big box shopping stores to get supplies for my dogs, usually every 3 days. So I see the same people all the time. When I walk in, they know me by name, which is really, I appreciate. I appreciate that welcoming. And, you get to know some of the kids that work there. This one young man, he's just such a bright light. I just adore him. I want to pick him up and bring him home. And it's interesting because, he's probably 18, 19, he sort of went through, he went to design school and he came, so he took a professional job, and so I didn't see him for a while, and he came back, and I said, I'm surprised to see you back. It's so nice to see you. And he was saying how, in his new job that he had, the gentleman that he was working for was not a positive person. And as much as it was his first opportunity, he would rather be back at Sam's Club working and, helping people there because he gets more joy out of it. And I thought, that's really amazing, because when I see him, he always has a big smile for everybody. It doesn't matter what it is, and he really lives by that. And yesterday when I saw him, I tried to encourage him, because he said, why don't you start something on your own? And, I tried to sort of mentor him, and he said, well, I don't have enough experience. And I said, forget that. I said, you have everything that it takes. I said, you have a dynamic personality, you're creative, you have a vision. I said, you might not have all of the tools, but, you just need to find a mentor. I said, and he said, well, I work here, and, I wouldn't want to not do a good job at either thing. And I said, well, you find a balance between those two things. But, it's interesting because he's somebody, no matter how difficult his day is, he always has a smile for you. And, and I appreciate that. And I really want to channel in for him that he gets that, 10 times what he gives out to other people. And I know it's only a matter of time, because people like that in the world are definitely a gift. And each one of us is a gift, and we all have that ability to share that with each other. And so I give him lots of encouragement and share different stories. And I definitely am going to turn them onto your podcast. And I was thinking about ordering one of your journals, Michael, because I think that would be a nice gift to give him. And so maybe sort of discern, because you have so many now to choose from. And I purchased your one on gratitude, and it's been a huge gift to me. So thank you.
Yeah, you get the inspirations I put every 10 pages. I've discovered so many wonderful, inspiring comments about happiness, quotes about happiness and about love and self-love and positivity, inspiration. It was just all kinds of wonderful quotes from people. I never really knew there were that many. There are thousands online. And I love finding those that actually fit gratitude, strength and courage, these kinds of things, and love and self-love. It's amazing what many of them I know in the future when I talk, I'll have these quotes that relate to what my topic, the topic of alchemy. I did do a personal alchemy journal, and I found some great quotes about personal alchemy, about transformation made by people all the way back into medieval times. And the one thing I want to say about, I'll take a digression back to the gentleman who you said, hey, you can do anything. The only thing preventing us from being more than we think we can be is ourselves. We are the only ones holding ourselves back. That is always the way it is. Doubt creeps in, and that doubt, then we go to some other people and we ask them, hey, what do you think about this? And then they inject their personal trials and tribulations that have nothing to do with us or our destiny, and they either encourage or discourage us from doing it because they failed at something one time, or they had doubts about doing something and they never did it, or they seek to put a thought virus or two into you to tempt you to thwart your forward progress and move you in another direction. When you're on your deathbed, you don't want to be saying, hey, I wish I'd done that. You're never going to say, I wish I'd bought that. But you really might be thinking, hey, I wish I'd done that. I wish I'd taken that step. My life could have been so different. And I think people don't do it because they misinterpret failure. Failure is an opportunity. That's all it is. It's just an opportunity to understand how not to do something. Or it's a message saying, hey, you need to reach out to other people. Reach out for help. In the end, it's always a growth opportunity. In the end, it always is. Whether you succeed or fail, you're going to learn something along the way. You're going to reach out and expand your horizons. You're going to meet new people because of your intention and your passion for what you're doing. And that's the key here, of course. He has to not just do anything, but he has to engage in something that he has a passion for. Everybody I've ever talked to who succeeded in anything, any endeavor, has had a passion for it. You get a lot of other people, and you can tell when somebody's doing something exclusively for the money. Their heart's not in it. They're just doing it because there's money in it. And they know how to get people to do what it is that they want them to do, and they can keep making money. However, you can also tell when someone's passionate about what they do. And being passionate about what you do is in your own right, building your right livelihood around something you're passionate about. It's wonderful. I love doing everything that I do. And the things that I don't like, I can either find someone to help to do them for me, or I can shift my perception about why I need to do them, so I can get rid of the negative. And that's the way that we have that power. We have that we can create. When I say create reality, that's the ability that we have to shift the way that we perceive things that we're doing, that we're engaging in, things that we have to do every day. And that is how we create our feelings. That's how we keep ourselves vibrating at higher frequencies. More than anything else, vibrating at higher frequencies is what counts. That keeps us young, like you said earlier. It keeps those endorphins and the other hormones flowing in abundance.
No, I absolutely, 100%. It's interesting because that's what they say, that they did I'm not sure exactly where the study was originated, but they said people who were 55 and older who volunteered for 2 or more years were 44% likely to die over the next 5-year period than those who didn't volunteer. Which I was like, that really was staggering statistic to me. And when I was doing some research in 2007 at the University of Oregon, they actually did a study. It was a study on the brain. And what they did, it was a blind study. They gave every participant $100. And it was since they didn't know, they gave an opportunity to either donate the money or keep the money, which sounds, kind of like a funny thing. But what they did is they did a brain scan, and they were able to actually see physiological differences in the amygdala center of the brain in the people who actually donated the money. And they could have donated a little bit of it. They didn't, the researchers didn't know whether the person chose to keep or give away the money. They found that the ones who gave it all away, it was like that pleasure center, that chemical center in the dopamine that was released. There was so much neural activity in that area, which I found so fascinating. But again, nobody would have known, but they could actually see it in the brain. And I don't know if you remember hearing the story. It was, and I'm not sure what year it was. I think it was like 2016, and it was a young man who was doing a race. It was a 6-day race in China through the Gobi Desert. And he, during the first day of the race, he was joined by a little dog. And this race is 155 miles. And this little dog joined him on the race. And he, the man expected the dog, after the first 22-mile stretch, he expected the dog to, not be there. But he was wrong. The next morning when he went up to go to start the race, there was the dog. And she raced with him, the whole day, another 23 miles. She ended up sleeping with him that night. He shared his food and water with her. And, he said she literally she ran ahead of him, trying to keep him pace. And she was like, okay, come on, you got this, and through the 3rd day, the 4th day, and through the 6th day when he was done, he said he never would have been able to do it if it hadn't have been for that little dog. And, she's just like a little unexpected gift. And he didn't want to leave her behind, but, it was sort of an obstacle of getting all the shots and everything else. But he ended up raising the money and bringing this little dog, Gobi, back and to be part of his family. But I thought, what a metaphor in life. You don't know who's going to show up unexpectedly for that long haul. Who's going to lead you ahead, right?
Yeah, you don't know.
And be like, as you were saying, Michael, you've got this. You can do this. Come on. Every day, we've got that 22-mile stretch or the 23-mile stretch. You can do this. You've got this. So I would encourage our audience, our listeners, to do that. Be that person for somebody. Find somebody who just needs a little extra nudge or some encouragement, or, bring somebody flowers, or, do whatever moves you, because I promise you, you will receive so much in return.
So true. So true. It's really, if we just focus on the giving, the byproducts, just the consequences, positive consequences will simply come to us automatically, and we don't have to really think about them. And I love studies when they back up the things that I keep practicing. I love that. It is amazing. Yeah, there's always some study. Let me find out if if that thing really works. Let's find out what giving does, or what. Let's prove it. Let's prove the science of it. And I love it when it pans out. I love it when it does actually show based on empirical evidence that things that what you've been thinking, what you've been doing all your life actually works. Love it.
Mm-hmm.
And good.
No, I was going to say, you do it, naturally. It's part of who you are, and what, I think, each one of us has that capacity. I remember even as a little kid, I think I was in first grade, and they had a Christmas market, and, my mom gave us, maybe like $5 each that we could spend to pick out gifts for one another, right? And there were so many,
exactly.
Neat things, and I still to this day, there was just a little, I don't know who donated it, but it was a little tiny picture. It was in a sweet little frame, and I had bought it for my mother, and it was something that she kept all those years. And, when
right.
I was going through her things, to find that, to think that meant something to her, and she had kept it, it all these years later, it touched my heart. I just, it was something that, whether, you paint a picture for somebody or you paint a house, right?
Exactly. You do it. You paint a guide. Okay. All right. Check this out. I actually found a card from Joseph M. Higgins, who I was talking about earlier. The author's name
wonderful.
is Joseph Higgins. Yeah, I couldn't find the book because I think I gave it to somebody. I let him borrow it or something, and as usual, I don't get it back. Time goes by, and you know what I'm talking about. I've done that before, and I had to go, I need to buy that book again because I didn't get back from so-and-so. Anyway, he says he wrote a book called Hello, Anyone Home? A guide on how your deceased loved ones try to contact us through the use of signs. And he was attempting to get people to understand that if you set your grief aside and your negative your sadness aside, then he gives you the signs that various that spirits use to connect with you after you've lost them, after you've lost someone. The other one he wrote was The Everything Guide to Evidence of the Afterlife, a scientific approach to proving the existence of life after death. And beautiful, beautiful guy, great guy. Big, I call him, he's like a big bear, teddy bear, And he does workshops and book signings and seminars and private mediumistic and channeled insight readings and sessions and stuff like that. Joseph Higgins is awesome.
How did you connect?
We did a series of workshops together with a guy up in Philadelphia. It was about writing books, and they were publicity workshops. And I took it as whenever I go somewhere, this is really interesting, whenever something doesn't work out the way it was supposed to, somebody's late for something or somebody cancels and I'm somewhere and I find it out, I always, in my view, think there's a metaphysical reason for my being there. There's another reason for why this thing happened. It wasn't because I was supposed to meet them. It's because, and then I start looking for the other spiritual reason why I'm there. who I'm supposed to meet, the person I'm supposed to connect with, the thing I'm supposed to do at that particular point. It's really, really rather interesting. And I see that because so often we get focused on the thing that we're going to do, and somehow it doesn't work out. Either we've gotten a traffic jam and we missed our appointment, or the other person couldn't make it and we made it there, and we're like, dang, I'm so inconvenienced. I can't stand this. And then we move to those lower frequency vibrations, right? The frustration, the worry, the anger, and being upset and put out because of something, instead of thinking, hey, maybe this happened for a reason. Because obviously there is, well, not obviously to everybody else perhaps, but to me, I don't believe in coincidences or accidents. So the universe must be telling me something different. What is it? And then I start focusing on what that is. And generally speaking, most of the time, it could be just something simple as me giving a kind word to someone. It could be that basic. Being friendly to someone, being nice to someone, telling someone, make your day awesome. Thanks. Keep making your day awesome to them. You know, if they did something great for me and they got a smile, keep making that smile. Keep doing whatever it is that you need to do to keep that smile rolling. And otherwise, it could be somebody that I actually meet, and I go, hey, you do this and do that, and we find out that there's something in common, or there's somebody who is in need of my podcast, or a book that I've written, something like that, or maybe they're just in need of a mind shift, a shift in their state of being, somebody who can help them see something that they were having an issue seeing. It could be that simple, that basic. Doesn't have to be, you know, I was supposed to make this huge impact. No, the universe is a very subtle thing. If you can shift someone's thinking in a positive direction to just an infinitesimal degree, then they will end up in a completely different place. And that is that's the goal. And when it comes to giving or being in service, that's just another tangent of it. And there's all these little tricks and tools that I have for keeping my state of being in a positive place. And I use them all. It's like a little bag of tricks, a little bag of alchemy, so to speak, that I use, and I use them every single day. And it's something as simple as, it's not working here. I'm going to take a walk. I'm going to look at the clouds in the sky and listen to the birds and smell the spring flowers. I'm going to do that. And you can get a shift in your state of being, just getting away from something for a little while to shift your perspective. And you can also you can be away enough for enough time to be able to have the intuitions to move through it in a different way. I call it get away to some sort of place where your angels can help give you some guidance. It's really more what it's about. And it can happen. There's different ways to pursue giving, different ways of looking at giving and being altruistic, or just being of service or whatever. And my wish for the world is that we can grasp that we create our reality, and we can begin to use the tools that are innate to us for being able to create a positive state of being under any circumstance at all.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And as always, time flies when I share time with you, Michael. It's always such a gift to be with you here on Connect to Love. I mean, there's so much wisdom and love that is put into the words that we share, and I really hope that our listeners feel it. And I would encourage everybody to be thankful, be grateful for what you have. Give to somebody, share your kindness, whatever it is, and really give to yourself. I really encourage you to acknowledge how magnificent you are, how awesome you are, and how much you are loved. And Michael, I'll let you sign off, and looking forward to our continued conversations.
I'm loving these conversations. Thank you. And everything you said, ditto right back to you. I'm just a mirror of you. That's all I am.
Oh,
it's just a mirror. It reflects back to you what you give to me. The only thing I want to say is whatever you do it with passion. Do it with passion. All right? Until next week.
Yeah,
Loving
make
everyone.
it awesome.
Make it awesome. Make it magnificent. Thanks.